Everyone, good time of day and welcome to our Nerdletter talk, where myself, Elena Perfileva, and as usual, Paul Moderman, right next to me in this Zoom window, we meeting to discuss the upcoming issue of the Boring Enterprise Nerdletter. So, as usual, looking forward to this discussion, and I will just shamelessly go first and share
Oh,
with you what's
shameless.
absolutely,
Shameless.
absolutely
Just
shameless.
a
So
self-promoter through and
absolute,
through.
yeah, no, no shame. So I will start with my idea. So we usually have at least three. There might be some bonus. So
Yeah.
yeah, so stick around to find out. So the very first one. It's very good post on LinkedIn, which doesn't happen very frequently these days. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the picture. It seems inspired by the author's picture. Looks like a villain, but so
Yeah.
I'll keep that editorial to
Yeah.
myself. So it honestly had me with this. Do you remember blockchain? Like, yeah, I remember. So what this article I think talks about, this is a catchy title, which obviously grabs your attention, but I
Yeah.
think it talks about more important issues that we seems to be kind of falling in love with these buzzwords, like blockchain is a great example from before. And now blockchain du jour is generative AI and AI
Mm.
and everything. So this is like just perfect sentence right here in the middle. I contacted by a company that wants to do something with AI and preferably with generative AI when but nobody knows like what exactly the business case is. So this article basically explores this point further, and I couldn't agree more because I have observed the same effect with blockchain and many other technologies before, and with AI these days. It's very, I don't know, very interesting, but also annoying time, I think, to
Mm.
be around. And funny enough, I found a couple more items that I might mention or may not in the story. So Jon Stewart of The Daily Show, surprisingly, even John has something to say about the reality of AI. And by the way, it's just absolutely funny and also insightful in very unexpected way videos that I think would love everyone to see. Just
Mm.
watch it. It's super
Mm.
funny, but also kind of it's like haha, but then like yeah, keeps you thinking a little bit and then which I love John, and by the way, love
Yeah.
that he returned to the
Absolutely.
Daily Show. It's very celebrated
Yep.
figure on US TV.
Hmm.
And third item on the same subject, generative AI. It's a rather old article, I think, from October or so last year from Silicon Angle, which is I think newsletter for like investors, etc. in Silicon Valley.
Mm.
See, I sometimes go to this website just to see like what's going on because I mean it's interesting to see what investors are thinking about stuff, and maybe I need to do something related to that. But they have very long article which says enterprise software developers prepare for generative AI's productivity revolution. Um, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily productivity revolution or not, but there are many people who are kind of interviewed, I guess, for this piece and who are speaking here and who I'm not sure they're really making much sense because, like, for example, this guy, just this quote kind of caught my attention. The long-term impact would be that IT will no longer be a cost organization. I'm like,
Hey, hey, uh,
but how?
Alex, I'll take IT company buzzwords for 400, please.
Yeah,
IT will no longer be a customer. Like, that would be great. Like, show me the answer to that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's perfect opportunity to drive revenue and improve customer. Like what? Like what? Show me the money, dude.
Yeah.
Where exactly is the opportunity? Like, use Copilot, write your code faster.
I
Is
don't,
that's your
I don't,
articles?
why would you,
I don't know.
this is just like a nothing sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
ugh.
exactly. I just so I know, but that's unfortunately comprises a lot of writing on this subject, which is just spinning nonsense. And this is not even ChatGPT generated, thankfully.
No,
And it's sad that these days I feel like almost every human written article deserves a spotlight, which is really, I think, sad
I
state
know,
of
I know,
internet we have these
I
days.
know.
So that's like one big kind of like what's the deal with AI kind of subject. So continuing on non ChatGPT generated writing, another really great article that I just stumbled upon. It's not AI, thankfully, or even SAP related, but I really liked the writing and it gave me some insights from outside of SAP that I was not aware that it's been happening outside of SAP world. So this person Kate, she is writing about how like kind of coming back of front end developer as not being some kind of I don't know, shameful have developer and how
Mm,
full stack does not really exist and that type of thing. So some interesting points. I totally agree with her on full stack. And since we have this video format, one funny story I had from the IBM days on we were sitting in a very big building on IBM campus where we had not just SAP developers, but there were also developers who did like other stuff for IBM. So I don't know what
yeah,
exactly, but
yeah,
like nothing to do with SAP.
yeah.
And we had one day where we could just walk around and different teams set up different activities to just talk about what they do, etc. It's kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know, team building, community building type of events that we did. So
Hmm.
we went and finally visited in the same building on the same floor some teams that was not SAP. We never met them before, never talked to them. And there were some developers. So I started chatting with them and I'm like, oh, you're a developer. And one guy I kind of he went kind of on alert and he said, "Yeah, I'm like full stack developer with like emphasis on full stack." And at the time, it didn't register with me. Like this is a weird reaction. Like I'm asking you, are you developer, and you're making such a big point about being full stack. I'm
Yeah,
like okay, like bro, well, like, am I full stack developer? Like I don't know. It's like because in SAP, it never really was a big deal, I think. And developers were the OGs, like full stack developers. We did GUI and database and everything. So I'm like, okay, like strange flex, bro.
yeah,
But after reading this article, I think understanding more why he got, made sure that he wasn't perceived as just plain old developer, but full stack developer. Um, because it seems that front end, first of all, it got somehow unnecessarily gendered, which is totally weird. It was, I guess, perceived that some kind of activities that less important and then more like what women do. And at the same time, unfortunately, this also meant that developers who were labeled front end, they also got promoted less and kind of taken less seriously. So that definitely not great. And it's a great news that I read here that it's
hmm,
kind of going away and there is kind of renaissance of web development. So yeah, and there's a lot of history. Again, very super well written
yeah,
articles that I think talks about just development in general, some history behind it,
mm,
and full stack related observations. There was just one quote that I wanted to just pluck out of it. Yeah, full stack developer at work. It's just funny picture. All right, so very short quote, like why full stack failed. Oh, there you go. So this is the one. You can't learn the whole stack, nobody can. So that's exactly right. I think in SAP in particular, scope is just so big that you can be like semi-stack maybe, no like just enough from both sides that you're like sitting kind of in the middle and doing very specific type of work successfully, which is, I mean, nothing to dunk on, but it's truly full stack. I think it's just a pipe dream at best. All right, so
oh, by
yeah,
the way,
yeah,
you scroll up to the top of this article real quick.
yeah.
The great transition from AI to not AI to start
Hmm.
off with an AI generated picture at the top
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
article.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's like for Kingmaker. This is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think she shared the prompt for
How
this
many
one.
horses do the legs have? Yeah. I mean, how many legs do the
In
horses have?
getting,
Yeah.
yeah, how many fingers, etc. This is very weird hand. So yeah, this is like very typical DALI generated stuff. All right, it's funny stuff. So, and the third one, so this will be interesting. So I was poking around on LinkedIn, and so Paul is already laughing because he knows who Ethan is. So Ethan is technically and very really my boss at work. And but he was also a pretty cool guy, so whom I would encourage sharing if he wasn't my boss. So I'm kind of
Careful what
I'm
you say
putting
here,
my
Yelena.
I'm putting my different hat right now. So let's talk about Ethan, who is totally not my boss at the Boring Enterprise Nerds. So I was poking around his LinkedIn profile, and I've just noticed that this was featured on his profile as like top item. Like,
Oh,
interesting. Like I haven't
by the
haven't even
way,
seen it. Yeah.
that's my birthday.
Oh,
So
really? Oh,
happy
happy
birthday,
happy
Paul.
birthday,
And
Paul.
not only is it my birthday, it's my birth it's the birthday before I even started doing SAP stuff.
Wow.
So like, yeah, this
Wow.
which should tell the world just how seasoned and awesome Ethan is
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
stuff, right? Yeah.
So yeah, so the story about how awesome is how awesome is Ethan.
Yeah.
Um, but it kind of made me think about a slightly bigger point here. So yeah, Paul already noticed it's actually from 2009.
Mhm.
But when I opened it, it was like oh shit, like because this stuff is like, I mean, you could technically take this presentation and just run with it today.
I think I've
And
seen this one at like
it
modern ASUG meetings, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Most likely you have seen it as like recently as last week, probably.
Ethan is patient zero of this presentation. Yeah.
So, but kind of, I don't know if it's funny or sad on how to even react to this. So this is about like testing and importance of like build build faster and agile and all that. Basically what agile is like iteration and etc. and how, so very nice slides, by the way, not like the huge wall of text,
Yep.
which I really like, and like to the point, like what's the topic. So there are tons of like 57 slides of a lot. So yeah, very, and again, focus on just iteration and writing test scripts. And I'm like looking at it, well, why the heck is it since 2009? Like no one really still listens to Ethan and others, because to be completely honest with ourselves, like how many really test scripts we have seen
Huh.
in like broader SCP world. I mean, let's be
I
just
mean,
brutally
yeah,
honest. I mean,
come on.
there are definitely like, I don't know, people on the forefront, like cutting edge and thought leadership of SAP, like Lars Schwam and many others who we
Yeah,
we talked about, and many
yeah,
many many more others.
yeah,
But but they present kind of
yeah,
very awesome, but
yeah.
I'm
Like
I'm I'm
now,
afraid minority
now
of
go do a project
SCP
and see if you
world.
can find any of them there. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think the tough reality is that no one really wants to pay for this.
yeah,
And this also causes the problem that no one wants to do this.
yeah,
And I have to admit that I'm more of like practical developer. I don't pretend to be like thought leader of anything. Um, in development at least. So I'm like, well, show me the money, show me well where the true value is, and I will follow it. If there is like true value, like in OOP, I wouldn't say it was denial, but I was like OOP kind of,
yeah,
I don't know, kind of on the fencer for a while. But when I saw really tangible benefits, like exception handling is a good example, I'm
yeah,
like, oh, okay, now I'm on board. So yeah, count me in.
yeah,
But with testing, I'm like still like, okay, I like if I'm going to the client, I can totally tell them, yeah, you should be writing test scripts and you can use them, and there will be some value. But then, like if you have to put time to think about testing and then write this yourself, and like, it kind of getting into
yeah,
diminishing returns territory. So
yeah,
I can, like in all like seriousness, go and just say, yeah, like this is like test scripts or bust. And to be honest, there are many areas, like take a very typical ALV report, or let's say CDS views, which don't really have like any unit testing or anything any concept like that, to be honest, that comes to mind. And that's a
Mm,
big part
yeah.
of development. Like if I already have done it many times, I know what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. I Writing ALV report, I know that the problems that I'm gonna get, it's probably because of data. It's because I didn't know some data was related like that, or someone didn't expect it, or just plain bad data. So what's the point like writing tons of unit tests that I know they're gonna be right? I mean, it's just kind of boilerplate and um, not very value add activity in my view. I'm
Yeah.
sure many people would watch this. If they were to watch this, they'll be like, bull, like raging bull, like, blood raising in their eyes and foaming in their mouth at me saying such heresy. Like, how could you? Like, yeah, like totally, unit testing is like, but like, is it so?
Is
So,
it though?
so
Like,
if,
is like,
like,
yeah, I don't.
I don't know. So like, no disrespect to Ethan, and it's really, to me, it's like really great that people like Ethan are talking about this. I'm not gonna say like, oh, shut up, like nobody cares. Please, by all means, continue talking about this. But I just find it very funny that 2024, 2009, how many years is that? Um,
15 years.
yeah, so 15 years, like my kid was born in 2009. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, and teenager now. So yeah, someone's whole lifetime, and
You
it's
had
like
a you
nothing
had a
happened
whole
really.
teenager and it didn't change,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Like, yeah, I made the whole human in this time. And yet
Yeah.
unit testing has not caught on in SAP world still. So that's my three and a half subjects. And over to you, Paul.
Yes, yes, yes. Here we go. Share this one. Um, a few issues ago, Yelena, you wrote
Oh yeah.
about architects and architecture.
Yep.
And the project I'm currently having a blast on, but also having like, I'm just doing a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Like I feel the importance, I feel the weight, I feel the power of this kind of a role, this
Hmm.
kind of a person, and especially inside the SAP world, right? So like, because you could kind of split the universe into some other kind of there's other. I mean, there's like a million and one flavors of architect. Like, I kind
Yeah.
of think everybody's an architect these days,
Yeah.
eventually, in name or otherwise. Um, and there's like an enterprise architect who doesn't have a concern about SAP specifically, and then there's SAP enterprise architecture, right? And
Hmm.
like for certain enterprises, the one and the other are probably pretty close to the same thing based on how they run their enterprise applications, right? All that to be said is that it's one of those roles where it it bears a lot of similarity to other kind of executive leadership, I think,
Hmm.
where you can be doing great and people don't know it for years, or you can be crashing and burning and people won't know it for years, right? Like
Hmm.
the effects of enterprise architecture go to like the year upon year scale
Yeah.
of the mistakes, the wins, the losses, right? And
Hmm.
so I I pick on this. I'm picking this one from Josh Greenbaum, and I'm going to read it and go further onto it. I kind of skimmed it over, and it just got me thinking about just architects in general. What uh, I, I'm almost kind of following on to what you wrote here before, right?
Yeah.
I have some further thoughts about architects and architecture in general. That
Yeah.
there was. It's a role that I've played. Sometimes I play it for a customer, sometimes I play it for a project, sometimes I don't play that role. And I just see this sort of like value and skill spread that goes kind of orthogonal to your like nerdy developer nerd skills that I feel like it needs its own, I mean, it kind of needs its own forum of developing the skills in that place. I think a lot of people get sort of promoted or pushed into that role, but don't take seriously what it means to do it. Just the software architect or solution architect in
Yeah.
general. And I think that needs to be pushed on in our world.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I totally agree with you that somehow it ends up being just the next step of promotion,
yeah,
and it needs to be recognized as separate profession. And so
like
it's great that this forum is happening.
yeah,
It's one, we don't really praise SAP quite frequently, probably
yeah,
for a reason. But making sure that enterprise architecture gets its due attention, I think
yeah.
it's, yeah, one of the good things.
You can make or break so much stuff
Yeah, yeah,
in this role. And like I said, it can be years until somebody loves or hates
yeah.
what you did, you know?
And
And
that YouTube video that I quoted, it's like architecture stuff that's hard to fix. That's a perfect definition. So if you get that wrong, if I get wrong like some ABAP code, it's not that hard to fix. But architecture can, make or break your enterprise, and honestly
yeah,
for years to come. So
yeah.
yeah, awesome,
So there's
great
that. That's one
subject.
thing. Here's one where I caught the generative AI bug, but it's actually because I feel like somebody picked two random buzzwords out of a hat and combined them
Yeah,
as
it's
to
like,
make a story or an analysis out of it.
mm,
And because like if I read through this piece and they're talking to this Gartner analyst about some generative AI as sustainable stuff, like you see that there's like nobody's actually defined a solution here yet that does what the
yeah,
idea here is, right?
yeah,
There's lots of talk, like take this quote here, and I don't mean to call this person out because I think this person is like an attendee of this forum and not like a
mm-hmm.
person, but this says, if we can, for example, optimize flows, how can we use AI not only to the blah blah blah? Like, yeah, I'd rather read the article that's talks about how you did that
Yeah,
rather than talks
exactly.
about wondering how you could.
Like what
Yeah.
if? Oh,
And there's
yeah,
let's see, uh the whole thing is has got this like I hate to be, Donnie Downer. I'll gender it for my own gender. Donnie Downer thing of like I don't think anybody said anything here. And
yeah,
I think that's a
yeah,
problem. I think it's a problem on a couple levels because I think what happens is, at least from my own perspective, there are absolutely potentials and good things and things people do right now in the generative AI space with stuff.
yeah,
This kind of information dilutes the real stuff. This kind of information gives people it fuels the hype engine, right? It makes the this is stuff like this is exactly what creates the hype cycle,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because at some point in the near future, whatever it's going to be, like this will the generative AI will inevitably fall into the bottom of the curve of that stuff, right? And then climb out to whatever it climbs out to. Um, this right here contributes to the curve going too high on that. And my like the thing that drives me nuts about this too is that like this is a dilution. This takes generative AI and just makes it into like this like a amorphous blob of who knows what. I think this as much as I'm a dork for generative AI, and I really am, I'm fascinated by it. This sustainability is the thing that makes the planet go beyond my daughter's lifetime. Like that's the
yeah,
more important issue going on. And if you like smush these together with sort of just nothingness, then you're inflating this one and you're actually kind of deflating this one because it's linked to a thing that has been inflated in this weird way, right? Like sustainability is more important than AI, I believe.
yeah. And we have written about sustainability before, and
Yeah,
also kind of poked holes there in some of the messaging where it's just greenwashing.
yeah,
And it's funny that notice how the title here, generative AI, emerges, but then right below it is generative AI can be useful too. So it's already a totally different message. One is a
yeah.
statement of fact, but another is like just possibility. And on top of that, the very first article that I started with, it says that about 2% of world energy is actually consumed by AI and generative AI in particular.
Hmm.
And even that John Stewart bit that I mentioned, he also makes fun of some statements like AI is going to help us solve like climate change. So very good thoughts. So feel free to deep
I mean,
into my
it's
resources
if it
for. But yeah,
if it if it does help, that's great.
yeah,
This thing does no part of that
yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah,
Whatever this mess
yeah.
is, that's not part of it.
And
You know
and
what I
and
mean?
just, I mean, hype all you want. Like you can hype like talking about developer productivity or whatever other nonsense, but when you using sustainability to just spin the hype cycle is just especially insidious, I would
Yeah.
say, and shady thing to do. Like
Yeah.
like leave sustainability out of this unless you have something specific to say.
Like
So
I would love to hear if some of these folks mentioned
yeah,
here or some of these if this is a
yeah,
if somebody is actually doing something where this truly has an impact there, good, great. I
yeah,
will shout it from every rooftop I can.
yeah,
But this doesn't do that. This is not that. This article is
yeah,
not that. And that
yeah.
kind of
Nothing,
it grinds my gears about this
yeah,
stuff.
nothing is sacred for some marketing people. Jeez.
So let's take a walk on the different side here. Did you see this one? Did you see those stores where you could just walk in and you
Oh
could
yeah,
like
yeah,
take the thing off the shelf and now they're moving away?
yeah,
You know why?
yeah,
Is because the cameras were not AI. They
yeah.
were manned by people just like noting down
Yeah.
what you took, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it was funny. I had to check
oh,
the date on this one because it looked like first, April joke at first, but
yeah.
it hit some news sites.
I
So
mean,
yeah, that's
yeah.
I don't
This
know.
is this is one of those
Jeez.
things like there's been a couple other things too. There was before ChatGPT hit, I tried a service and I think it was called X.AI before X.AI was X.AI now. Um, where you could have what they touted as a virtual assistant. Like you could just email somebody and then like a virtual like an AI would help you like coordinate your schedules between the two of these people to like meet up to have coffee or dinner or whatever. That one collapsed too because it turned out
Mm.
it was just humans doing it because they couldn't solve the whole problem yet, right?
Wow.
It wasn't actually doing the thing it said it would do, at
Yeah.
least not at the scale that they needed to make it profitable. I don't even know. I can't remember if it was
Wow.
I can't remember if the programs were just failing or if it was just literally just people, you know, injecting emails in the middle of the things from you. But anyway, it was of the same nature as like this is amazing and under the covers is a pile of humans doing this you know in a way that is not apparent from what's going on.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
artificial. There was a funny SNL sketch about this stores, by the way. If you, I can find the link and send it to you if you haven't seen it.
yeah.
If
Oh,
you
that's
feel
good.
free to.
Please, yeah. Anyway, those are my things. I also had one flagged as like here's another obviously generative AI written story. It just was like I don't think I'm quite at the level. I don't think I have quite the temperament to directly call out person for it. Like I don't
Mm,
feel. I mean,
mm,
it sucks, and you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, I'm not quite as much of a. I'm not as much of an internet fighter as
mm.
that, so I don't want to like.
Warrior. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a keyboard warrior like that, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I might kick a whole business about it, but I'm not gonna kick a person about it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. I think we need like Gen AI tool to help us to kind of like an ad block, but for ChatGPT generated
Yeah.
articles, I would
Oh my
love to
gosh.
have something like that. I think, yeah. Awesome. All right, so that's all, folks. Hopefully we will see you in the next 2 weeks, and like and subscribe, and read about these stories and some more in our next newsletter. Thank you.
Bye, guys.